The first time I lied, I whispered to myself that it was harmless, but that single caption planted the seed of my undoing. Emily said, "They wanted romance, so I gave them one." And in that moment, Marcus became my ghostly prop. My followers never questioned the carefully staged coffee dates or blurred photographs of his silhouette. But the hollowness grew inside me with every like. I told myself that lies were only filters, ways to edit my real life into something worthy of envy. Chloe asked, "Are you sure this is safe?" But I laughed because the likes silenced doubt better than any truth could. The glow of screens became my heartbeat, each notification a rush of oxygen that drowned out the voice of Daniel, warning me about the weight of secrets. I loved the applause more than I feared exposure, and I thought I was invincible. Ava said, "You're building a castle from glass," but I couldn't stop because perfection was addictive. Lucas's mocking smile in our last collab reminded me that rivals always wait for cracks to widen. I convinced myself that I wasn't lying to them but to me, because I wanted to believe I was lovable only when dressed in fantasy. That was the moment my real self died, and the ghost of Emily the influencer was born. Emily said, "They didn't follow me. They followed the version of me I invented." And in that confession lay my deepest wound. Marcus became a symbol, not a man, and Chloe's worried glances grew sharper. Daniel reminded me that lies don't end with posts. They bleed into nights, into sleep, into breath. Ava said, "Your truth is starving," but I silenced it with curated smiles. Lucas thrived on every stumble I made, waiting for the day the mask collapsed. My audience didn't see Emily. They saw her ghost. Every day I woke to a battlefield of comments, half love, half venom, and I let both shape me. Emily said, "Validation felt like oxygen," though Chloe's voice begged me to breathe my own air. Marcus was fading into fiction, while Ava whispered warnings. I refused. Daniel grew distant, shaking his head, and Lucas mocked me with every perfect post. My ghost self laughed with my followers, while my real self drowned in silence. Emily said, "I thought likes meant love, but in truth, they only built cages around me." Marcus was a name I used to keep the illusion alive, and Daniel told me this isn't freedom. Chloe worried, Ava frowned, Lucas smirked, and the crowd cheered with every lie I sold. My soul was disappearing into algorithms, and I could not claw it back. I built a ghost and the ghost consumed me. Emily said, "I was never enough without her," and Chloe looked at me as if I had vanished. Marcus was a puppet, Daniel a fading voice, Ava's patience crumbled, and Lucas thrived on my collapse. My audience worshipped a mask while my real self decayed in shadows. The first act of my confession was not about fame, but about the death of who I was. Emily said, "I thought the ring light was my sun, but when it shut off, I was just a shadow." The silence after each live stream crushed me harder than the applause that came before. Marcus's absence was louder than his fake presence, his ghostly role, a wound I nursed in private. Chloe sat with me once, asking why I was crying when millions adored me, but I couldn't tell her that adoration never reached the real me. Daniel warned, "They don't love you, they love her." And he was right, though I hated him for saying it. Ava tried to comfort me, but her eyes carried disappointment, and I knew she wished I'd never sold myself this way. Lucas, always watching, posted smiles that cut deeper than knives, because he never needed lies to win. My followers praised every curated angle, but at night I whispered to the ghost of who I was before, begging her not to hate me. My empire was made of glass hearts, and every one of them felt cold in my hands. Emily said, "Every like was a drug, but every morning was a hangover." The emptiness gnawed when my phone went dark, and I felt smaller than ever. Marcus's smile in old photos mocked me, reminding me of the fiction I forced. Chloe begged me to rest, yet I stayed awake refreshing screens. Daniel's voice cracked with worry, but I turned him away because I couldn't face truth. Ava whispered, "This isn't living," yet I scrolled harder. Lucas laughed on his feed, holding victories I once thought were mine. My ghost self sat beside me, quiet, watching me waste away under the weight of strangers' demands. Emily said. I started to believe my own invention. My ghost whispered in mirrors, reminding me I was smaller than the woman they adored. Marcus was nothing more than staged perfection, but I clung to his name like oxygen. Chloe's compassion couldn't break my cage because I locked the door myself. Daniel pressed harder, warning me that truth ignored will always scream louder. Ava grew colder, her silence a wound sharper than words. Lucas basked in my unraveling, feeding his own rise on my decay. My audience's cheers were chains, pulling me deeper into the lie. I wanted them to love Emily, not the mask, but I no longer knew where one ended and the other began. Emily said, they loved the fantasy, and I hated them for it. I smiled for them and sobbed after. Marcus was fiction, but to them he was proof I was lovable. Chloe tried to ground me, but I floated too far above reality. Daniel's warnings felt like chains, dragging me toward truths I resisted. Ava's patience shattered, her voice sharper, and I felt her slipping away. Lucas kept posting victories, each one pressing harder on my wounds. The ghost whispered that I was disappearing, and I feared she was right. I wanted to be loved, but not like this. Not for lies. Emily said, I was adored, but never seen. The ghost sat on my chest at night, whispering that Emily the influencer had stolen Emily the girl. Marcus was a cardboard cutout, yet I let him define me. Chloe's pity pierced me more than her anger. Daniel begged, tell them the truth, but I hid behind likes. Ava's love cooled, each word turning to ash. Lucas thrived, his laughter echoing through the feeds. My audience demanded more, and I gave them until nothing was left. I wanted to scream, but I smiled instead, because silence online was death, and I wasn't ready to vanish. Emily said, every post became another thread I had to sew into the mask. Marcus's name appeared in captions, even though he was nowhere near me. Chloe's frustration deepened as she begged me to stop. Daniel's voice grew sharper, you're drowning, Emily, and he was right, but I blocked out his truth with filters and hashtags. Ava whispered, you've turned pain into performance, and I hated her for seeing what I couldn't admit. Lucas sharpened his claws, mocking me in subtle captions, feeding on my weakness. My ghost laughed cruelly, reminding me that every staged smile was another crack. I was spiraling, and the applause only pushed me further. Emily said, lies demand bigger lies. To prove love, I staged vacations that never happened, dinners with Marcus that he never ate. Chloe's eyes burned with disapproval, but I silenced her by saying, they need this story. Daniel grew weary, his patience fraying. Ava slammed a hand on the table and said, you're killing yourself, but her words slid past me like smoke. Lucas thrived on each slip I made, feeding the fire of doubt around me. My ghost whispered, the house of cards is swaying, but I pretended not to hear as the storm built inside me. Emily said every secret leaked into my skin. My eyes darkened with sleepless nights, my smiles grew brittle, my body weaker. Marcus's ghost became heavier, his absence a chain I dragged. Chloe pleaded, please stop before it's too late, but I drowned her words in fake brand deals. Daniel's texts grew shorter, his love strained. Ava's kindness cracked into coldness, while Lucas broadcasted his victories with my failures as his backdrop. The ghost whispered, they'll destroy you when they see you, and I believed her, yet I posted anyway. I was addicted to applause even as it burned me alive. Emily said, I became my own prisoner. Every brand deal demanded smiles. Every lie demanded proof. Marcus was still my ghostly crutch, but I resented his name. Chloe stopped calling, her silence louder than words. Daniel broke down one night, shouting, you're losing yourself. Ava turned cold, her patience gone, and Lucas posted collaborations meant to outshine me. The ghost whispered, this isn't life, this is theater, and I feared she was right. My empire demanded performance, and I had no choice but to keep playing. Emily said, the mask started slipping. In a live stream I stuttered, forgot the script, and the comments tore me apart. Marcus's absence became a rumor storm. Chloe's messages filled with worry, Daniel begged. "End this now," and Ava's voice cracked with grief. Lucas celebrated, posting laughing emojis, while my empire shook. The ghost whispered, "They see through you." And I realized the performance was failing. The applause that once felt like air now suffocated me. My empire was collapsing, and I had no way out. Emily said, "The first betrayal came from the one I trusted most. Marcus was never mine, yet his ghost was stolen when Chloe leaked our staged photos to a gossip page. I thought she was my anchor, but her bitterness broke my mask." Daniel screamed, "You trusted the wrong people," and his words sliced deeper than the headlines. Ava asked, "Why would she do this?" But I already knew. Love turned sour, loyalty poisoned. Lucas celebrated with veiled captions, smirking as my empire trembled. My ghost said, "This was inevitable," and I realized the betrayal wasn't just Chloe's. It was mine too, forever thinking the mask could protect me. Emily said, "The betrayal was louder than my voice." Chloe defended herself, saying, "I wanted to save you," but her words burned worse than hate. Marcus's name filled headlines, and suddenly everyone questioned if he ever existed. Daniel begged me to tell the truth, but fear chained me to silence. Ava whispered, "You can't lie your way out now," and I shook under the weight of her gaze. Lucas mocked me publicly, his captions dripping venom disguised as wit. My ghost murmured, "You built this prison," and the bars closed tighter. The twist wasn't Chloe's leak alone. It was the world finally smelling blood. Emily said, "My story was no longer mine." Marcus's absence became a trending thread, dissected by strangers who claimed to know me. Chloe's betrayal spread like wildfire, each share another nail in my coffin. Daniel raged at the betrayal, Ava broke down with disappointment, and Lucas weaponized every rumor to climb higher. My ghost whispered, "Now they see the cracks," and I felt my empire crumbling under their gaze. I thought lies would protect me, but instead they fed the wolves that waited at the edge. The twist was not just exposure but invasion. My life devoured by strangers who wanted me to bleed. Emily said, "The mask was slipping faster than I could hold it." Chloe wept, "I didn't mean for this," but the damage was done. Marcus was no longer a ghost but a weapon used against me. Daniel warned, "They will tear you apart," and I knew he was right. Ava turned away, exhausted by the chaos. Lucas fanned the flames, his every word dripping cruelty. My ghost whispered, "You thought lies could be friends," and I realized betrayal was the cost of the world I built. The twist wasn't just their betrayal, it was my refusal to accept that truth had always been waiting. Emily said, "The ghost they loved wasn't me." My audience demanded answers, flooding my feed with knives disguised as questions. Chloe tried to apologize, but her betrayal burned a hole that couldn't be sealed. Daniel shouted, Ava cried, Lucas thrived, and Marcus' shadow grew heavier with each passing second. My ghost whispered, "She was never real," and I knew the truth. The influencer they adored was a fabrication, and the twist was not betrayal alone. It was the revelation that Emily, the real Emily, had been erased. The mask had won, and I was its prisoner. Emily said, "The cancellation didn't break me, the silence did." The storm arrived like a tidal wave, and overnight I was washed from adored icon to viral disgrace. Millions of voices fused into a single howl of judgment, each comment like glass pressed against my skin. Marcus's ghost was dissected by strangers, torn apart in comment threads that tried to prove his existence or erase him entirely. Chloe begged me to log off, clutching my wrist as tears brimmed in her eyes, whispering, "This isn't worth your life." Daniel raised his voice until it cracked. "You're letting them kill you," his fury born from fear. Ava knelt beside me, pleading, "Look at me, not the screen," but I couldn't. My eyes were chained to the feed, to every word cutting deeper than the last. Lucas laughed from the shadows, his captions dripping poison disguised as humor, mocking me with every sentence. And my ghost whispered, "This was always where it was leading, Emily. You cannot wear lies without being buried in them. My chest burned with a rage I couldn't contain, a grief I couldn't silence. I realized that the storm wasn't destroying me. It was revealing the hollowness that had always been there. The silence that followed the roar of hate was worse than any insult, because when the shouting stopped, I was left alone with nothing but the emptiness I had created. Emily said. Rage became my only language. I screamed at the glow of the phone, typing furious replies to strangers who knew nothing of me, as if I could drown their cruelty with my fire. Marcus's name trended higher, the ghost of him chained around my neck. Chloe tried to wrench the phone from my hands, whispering, "Stop before you break completely," but I shoved her away. Daniel slammed his fist against the table, so hard the wood shook, his voice raw. "This is suicide, Emily." Ava's hands pressed against my shoulders, her tears falling on my skin as she said, "Come back, please." Lucas poured fuel onto the blaze, his mocking captions and laughing emojis spreading like wildfire across feeds, a chorus of humiliation. My ghost whispered, "You are burning yourself, not them," but I ignored her voice. My blood felt electric, my lungs filled with anger. I clawed at every insult, desperate to silence the mob, but every word I typed only birthed 10 more knives. My voice broke until I screamed soundless into the void, a howl that no one would hear. Rage consumed me, but even fire leaves only ashes. Emily said, the mask shattered in front of everyone. In a desperate attempt to prove I was still in control, I went live. My face filled the screen under the ring light's cruel glow, but the words wouldn't come. My voice cracked, my throat tightened, and tears streamed unchecked. The audience didn't see strength, they saw collapse. Marcus's name flooded the chat, each message another reminder that my empire had always been a lie. Chloe typed frantic messages, begging me to end it before it was too late. Daniel's hands shook as he shouted, off camera, "Shut it down." Ava sobbed, her hands covering her face as she whispered, "They're tearing her apart." Lucas clipped every second, posting my humiliation with mocking captions, turning my breakdown into entertainment for millions. My ghost whispered, "This is the truth. Raw, unfiltered, and they will destroy you for it." My chest heaved, and I gasped into the camera, broken, vulnerable, exposed. For the first time, the world wasn't applauding or canceling. They were watching me drown. Emily said. The silence after was unbearable. The live stream cut abruptly, leaving a black screen where I once performed. The feed went quiet. No more comments, no more noise. Only me. Marcus lingered like smoke, his ghost etched into headlines I couldn't stop reading. Chloe's pale face hovered near me, her voice trembling, "Emily, please breathe," but I felt like my lungs were hollow. Daniel's eyes brimmed with helpless tears as he whispered, "I can't fix this for you." Ava sat beside my bed, her voice cracking, "I can't watch you die like this," and her despair pierced deeper than any insult. Lucas, triumphant, posted my breakdown within minutes, his captions cruel, his laughter louder than ever. My ghost whispered, "This is your grave, and silence is your coffin." I lay still, numb, feeling the weight of absence heavier than hate. The cancellation wasn't the end. The real end was knowing that after the storm, there was nothing left but me and the echo of my own emptiness. Emily said, "The storm left me hollow." The applause was gone, the mob had quieted, and all that remained was silence pressing against my ribs. Marcus was erased, a fiction, unmasked. Chloe's presence lingered like regret, her eyes unable to meet mine. Daniel stayed close, but even his patience cracked, his voice thin when he muttered, "I don't know how to reach you anymore." Ava's compassion dulled, her sighs heavier than her words, her heart fractured by my choices. Lucas was everywhere, his victory echoing in every mocking post, his laughter etched into feeds that once worshipped me. My ghost whispered, "You wanted love, but you built a funeral," and she was right. The climax wasn't noise or scandal. It wasn't the anger, the betrayal, or the collapse. The climax was this, a silence so deep it swallowed me whole. I sat in the middle of my empire's ashes, realizing the applause had never been real, and neither had I. Emily said after the storm, the silence tasted different. It was no longer the silence of cancellation, filled with sharp knives of judgment, but the heavy quiet of absence, as if the world had moved on without me. Marcus was erased completely, a name that had once defined my entire persona, now nothing more than a rumor thread buried under newer scandals. Chloe returned hesitantly, her voice fragile as she whispered, "I didn't want it to end like this," but regret clung to her words like ash. Daniel softened, his anger melting into exhaustion, his hand brushing mine as he muttered, "You're still here," though his eyes carried doubt. Ava stood near the window, her back rigid, arms crossed, her silence heavier than any lecture she had ever given. Lucas's smirk still decorated feeds, but it no longer pierced me. His victory felt distant, hollow, like a laugh echoing from another world. My ghost whispered, "Now you face yourself." And for the first time, I didn't look away. The mask was gone, the applause was gone, but I was still breathing, and that had to mean something, even if I didn't yet know what. Emily said, "I thought I wanted to be remembered, but now I only wanted to breathe." The empire of likes and comments had crumbled, but in its ruins, I found small fragments of air that felt real. Marcus had been my shield, and without him I felt raw, fragile, but strangely lighter. Chloe whispered, "You can start again," though her eyes trembled with the guilt of knowing she had played her part in my downfall. Daniel's voice was low, steady, as he said, "Truth is heavy, but it saves," his fingers gripping mine with quiet urgency. Ava said nothing, only studied me with eyes that carried both sorrow and fragile hope, as if she wanted to believe, but couldn't yet. Lucas's voice still floated from screens, sharp and mocking, but his laughter no longer commanded me. My ghost whispered, "This is the weight of honesty." And for the first time, I felt the truth of her words. Freedom wasn't applause, wasn't fame, wasn't noise. Freedom was this fragile quiet, the kind I had feared for so long, but was beginning to embrace. Emily said, "Collapse didn't kill me, it made me human again." The silence became a kind of mirror, showing me what remained when all the filters and applause were gone. Marcus was gone, stripped from my identity, but I realized I no longer needed him to exist. Chloe's presence was fractured but still there, her eyes carrying sorrow for what she couldn't undo. Daniel's patience was bruised, yet he stayed, his quiet strength anchoring me to the floor I once thought was falling away. Ava's eyes softened, her arms slowly lowering as if she wanted to open herself to me again, but fear still lingered. Lucas's victories echoed faintly in the distance, but they no longer defined my ruin. My ghost whispered, "You are more real now than ever," and for once, I almost believed her. The resolution wasn't redemption, not yet, but survival. It wasn't triumph, it was trembling. But for the first time, I felt the faint spark of wanting to live without a mask. Emily said, "Every mask I wore had shattered, and all that remained was me." The pieces of my life lay scattered around me, like broken glass. Marcus was only a shadow on old posts. Chloe was the wound that never healed. Daniel was the conscience I had resisted. Ava was the mirror of my choices. And Lucas was the shadow I had allowed to thrive. But my ghost was the voice that remained, the truth I had silenced for too long. Chloe muttered, "You still have a chance," her words trembling with both hope and doubt. Daniel said, "One step at a time," his tone patient but firm. Ava sighed, her voice edged with exhaustion but softened by honesty. "If you want this, it has to be real." Lucas's laughter crackled from a phone nearby, venom disguised as victory. My ghost whispered, "Choose," and for the first time, I felt the weight of the decision in my chest. The empire was gone, the mask was gone, but I wasn't, and maybe that was enough. Emily said, "I thought I wanted to be remembered, but now I only wanted to be real." The empire had fallen, the crowd was gone, and the mask lay shattered. Marcus no longer haunted me. His ghost was only paper, torn and discarded. Chloe's regret lingered, but so did her presence, fragile and unsure. Daniel stayed, quiet and steady, his presence more powerful than any applause. Ava's eyes softened, her forgiveness tentative, but it was there, a fragile thread I could choose to hold on to. Lucas remained, mocking from afar, but his voice carried less weight than it once did. My ghost whispered, "Now you begin again," and this time I didn't silence her. The resolution wasn't a triumphant rebirth. It was something smaller, quieter, but infinitely more important. It was honesty. It was choosing to live without pretending. It was fragile, trembling, imperfect, but it was mine. Emily said. The mask no longer fit, but I couldn't peel it off without tearing my skin. The empire was rubble, the applause a memory, the silence pressing against my chest. Marcus was gone, erased as if he had never existed. Chloe sat near me, her voice trembling. You're still human, but her pity cut deeper than hate. Daniel leaned closer, whispering, You're still here, Emily, but I didn't feel alive. Ava sighed, her compassion fading. If you want to be real, you have to leave it all behind. Lucas sneered from afar, his triumph loud, his captions dancing on my grave. My ghost whispered, You don't need them, you need yourself. And for the first time, I heard her clearly. The silence was suffocating. But maybe suffocation was what it meant to finally breathe, without filters. Emily said, I thought cancellation would end me, but it was emptiness that did. The crowd had moved on, leaving me alone with shadows. Marcus had never been real, and yet he haunted me more than anyone else. Chloe wept, whispering, I didn't mean to destroy you, but regret couldn't undo betrayal. Daniel's words were calm, quiet. You can walk away, though I felt chained to the ruins. Ava sighed, her voice tired. There's nothing left to prove, and her words carried the weight of finality. Lucas thrived, his smirk plastered across trending feeds, his captions mocking me mercilessly. My ghost whispered, They never loved you, they loved her, and I finally understood. The final blow wasn't their hate, but the realization that their love had never belonged to me either. Emily said, The person they adored wasn't me. She was a ghost I built out of everything I wasn't. Marcus was fiction, Chloe was fracture, Daniel was strained love, Ava was fading compassion, Lucas was shadow, and my ghost was truth. Chloe whispered, I miss the girl you were, Daniel muttered. She's still in there, Ava sighed. Not unless she chooses it, and Lucas laughed from afar. My ghost whispered, I am the girl you abandoned, and I realized she had been waiting all along. The final blow was not the betrayal, not the hate, not the loss. It was the truth, that the real Emily had died, the moment I chose to become someone else. Emily said, I wanted applause, but now I only wanted silence. The empire was ashes, the crowd gone, the screens dark. Marcus was gone, Chloe broken, Daniel exhausted, Ava grieving, Lucas triumphant, and my ghost louder than ever. Chloe whispered, Please don't disappear, Daniel begged, stay alive. Ava pleaded softly, choose yourself, and Lucas sneered, too late. My ghost whispered, You can end the performance, and the weight of her words pressed on my chest like a stone. I looked at the city below, glowing and indifferent, and realized silence was the only gift I had left. Emily said, And that's why you'll never see me online again. My voice was steady, stripped of tremors, my tears dry, my mask gone. Marcus had vanished into fiction, Chloe was shattered, Daniel was broken, Ava grieved, and Lucas mocked. My ghost whispered, Now you are real, and for the first time, I believed her. Chloe whispered faintly, Goodbye, Daniel muttered. I'll remember you. Ava sobbed quietly, and Lucas' laughter echoed one last time from the glow of his screen. I closed the laptop, shut off the phone, and the world went dark. My empire collapsed into silence, and for once, the silence didn't suffocate me. It freed me.